Check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Yes, Scott, you want to ask him?
One, check, 1.
All right, is this on? Nope. It's not. It's green. All right. Nope.
This one's working, sir.
Okay. All right, if you'll take that.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Good morning, warriors. Glad to see you all back. I hope you had a great holiday, but you're ready to come back and get with it for our students. We're going to do some exciting things this morning. I have changed the way that we do Convocation, so if you don't like it, it's my fault. If you do like it, I'll be very glad. Some of you have had the opportunity to meet my wife, and some haven't. So I wanted to make the special introduction of Kate Rhodes, my wife. We have been married for 45 years in August. We have 4 children and 9 grandchildren, and I think that's the end of the line. We hope. No, and I just have to tell you, Kate has been the love, the joy, and the inspiration for my life. And but she's also my nutritionist, of which she has taken seriously lately. But also, she is the one who is the reminder that, Richard, you need to put sunscreen on every single morning. And, I just have to tell you, like 2 days before our graduation, I made the mistake of scheduling with my dermatologist to go there. And my dermatologist, she just takes great joy and pleasure in reminding me why I should have been wearing sunscreen back when I was younger. And so she gets that liquid nitrogen gun out, and it's like zap, zap. And the more she zaps, the bigger her smile gets. And so 2 days before graduation, those red spots don't disappear immediately. So at graduation, it's a good thing that we have caps and gowns, because the cap kind of covered all of the redness that was on there. So, and how many of you have tried to get in to see a dermatologist lately? It is like 6 months. And so if they say, is it an emergency? And I said, not really, but what if it was? Then go to the emergency room. So this is going to be a little bit different. We are going to do some recognitions first, and then we're going to have a student panel. And we're doing a student panel because it's good for me, and I think it's good for all of us to hear directly from the students as to what their experience is, why they're here, what they want to get out of us, and where they want to be 5 and 10 years from now. So we're going to have a conversation with the students. And then right after that, then you're going to hear directly from Dr. Mark Milliron. And I've known him since 1993, when we were in graduate school about the same time at the University of Texas at Austin. And when I think about people who really understand the future of higher education and where we're headed and the utilization of technologies and, just thinking about catalytic transformation of higher education, he's number one on my list. And so that's why I've invited him to come here. So let's kick it off with the recognition. So Tina, would you come and take either the mic or whatever you're going to do?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Okay, great. Thank you. So today we're going to recognize our staff and supervisors who have provided us with superior service. So without further ado, can you do me a favor? When I was looking at my slides this morning, I realized that the order was not where I wanted it to be. So if you don't mind, can you go to the next slide? I think we need to start here and thank our sponsors and our donors. The Beck and Yowell family in 2018 provided us with a wonderful donation, and it's the reason why we are able to provide this award to our staff and supervisors. So I think we need to give them a round of applause for their donation. Thank you. Can we go back? Let's go back. Oh. No. It's my fault, not his. He's not trained. No, we didn't train him. No, I'm sorry. So this is the eligibility and for the Staff Excellence Award, and I'm not going to read every single one of those points to you, but every year we receive nominations, and this year we received 17, so that was wonderful, a good number of nominations. And basically, the eligibility is to provide outstanding and ongoing excellence in service to faculty, staff, and students. And then there's other criteria, but I'm not going to read that to you. We receive 10 are awarded, and they receive a plaque and a $1,000. Woo! 10,000 would be great. A $1,000 monetary award. And for our supervisors, our distinguished supervisors, the criteria is just slightly different as they support staff and have different responsibilities. But again, they demonstrate exceptional leadership skills and ability. And without further ado, our first, which we already know, Jeffrey Barron. And from the College of Business Administration. Next. Marquita Blaine. There she is. Stand up. Marquita, please stand. Yeah, there she is. Oh, no, just stand. Let us see you. Thank you. If you're here, please stand if your name is called. Thank you. Peyton Cook. Nope. Oh, there she is. She's in the back. There. Margaret Daniel. Enrollment Management. Sarah Dierk, TEL. Nope. Okay. Elise Early, College of Education. Yay! Woo! Shawana Latrice Frederick, Office of Research. There she is. She's in the back. Chastity Gaddy, Student Affairs. Woo! Tamitha Jeffries, Enrollment Management. She's right there. Mackenzie Wolf, College of Arts and Sciences. All right. Distinguished Supervisor Alba Cook. Last but not least, Stephanie Legree Roberts, Student Affairs. Yeah, Stephanie, please stand. Please stand. There she is. All right. That concludes the award ceremony. Thank you so much. Thank you for your wonderful, excellent supervision and the service that you provide to our staff, students, and faculty. And for those who have received an award, your monetary award will be directly deposited on Friday, and your plaque will be delivered to you in your office later today. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to ask the student panelists to come forward. All right.
Hot mic. Pass it back and forth.
Okay, welcome. So I want each of you to tell just a little bit about yourself, but why you chose to come to Texas A&M University Central Texas. And I'm going to start with you, Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Richter. I am 43 years old, and I'm
You can clap for that one, too. 43 years.
I am an organismal biology major and will be graduating this May. I transferred here from Austin Community College in Round Rock. We had some amazing people come from TAMUCT to that campus, and they were talking to us about the biology program here, and it's a lot closer than driving all the way to College Station. So I was really excited, and that's why I chose TAMUCT.
Okay. And now you were a stay-at-home mom for like 20 years, right? And then made the decision to come back. And you have two children. You have a daughter who's 24?
Yes.
And a son who's 17?
Yes.
And so what do you hope to see for them?
Well, right now, my daughter, she graduated in 2021, and she is working at a place where they make microchips for smart cars and smartphones. My son is a early college high school student, so he will be graduating next year with his high school diploma and his associates. So
Awesome.
that's
Awesome.
great.
Yeah. And what high school is he at?
He's at Early College High School in Round Rock.
In Round Rock. Okay. Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Darla.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Darlene. I'm an international student from the Philippines and pursuing a Master's of Science Information System with a concentration in Applied Data Analytics. So I came here to this university to complement my bachelor's degree, and I had to consider a lot of factors, such as the tuition fee, cost of living, student-faculty ratio, and as well as the courses that the university offers. And based on the research that I did, I found out that Texas A&M Central Texas is actually, it checks all the boxes. And they offer competitive classes by also providing affordable tuition rates. So that is why I came here, and I'm really happy with my decision.
Okay. And what she didn't say is she has her bachelor's degree in petroleum engineering from...
It's from the Philippines as well. So, yeah. And I work as an operations engineer back in the Philippines in a water treatment plant. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We're glad you're here. Antonio.
Hello, y'all. My name is Antonio Sandoval Jr. I am working on my master's degree here in political science. I actually received my bachelor's here as well in political science. I graduated in 2020. Well, first reason why I came here when I was working on my bachelor's was because when I was going to CTC, I was speaking to a counselor and I asked him, hey, what's something that I can go to continue my college degrees, get it something that's higher? And they're like, well, it's just down the street. I was like, really? I didn't know that. So as you all know, every time you pass by here, you just see, it's like, that's a weird looking hospital. Why they only got 3 buildings? So as I drove by, I was like, oh, this is an actual university. I didn't know this was it. So I stopped by and I spoke to an admissions. They said, yep, transfer your stuff over, talk to someone here. You can even get back in the day, right? You can get your physical transcripts, and that's what I did. I just gave it over, and it was a lot easier for me to transfer here than it was to, say, any other school. Not only that, I actually live in Killeen, so it's actually just a 12-minute drive. So it's really nice.
Yeah.
Save on gas and everything.
Now, did you take dual credit while you were
I actually did.
high school?
So when I was in high school, I took a semester worth of college degree in a year. So I actually finished my associates within a year. So I came here at like the age of 19. So I'm 25 now. It's a
All right. And you're active in Blue Coats.
Yes, sir, I am.
Correct?
Yes,
And
sir.
so what difference has that made for you?
It's a very big difference, especially after COVID. I kind of became a hermit. So this job actually helped me become more sociable. I attained more of my skills to be a social butterfly and actually speak to other people and say what is on my mind. So
Hey, and you're doing that very well.
thank you.
All right. And Frederick or Fred?
Okay, my name is Frederick Bernard Grimes IV. I know it's like really long, so I just go by Fred or Frederick. So I am majoring in anthropology here. The start of this semester will be my second semester. I'm like a fresh student. Why I chose to come here? So I guess I've been kind of burned by previous universities. So I'm a transfer student.
Are you going to name those universities? Or
I can. Do you want me to? But so I initially, after I got my associates, I transferred to UT Arlington, which is like my dream school, but it like was horrible. So I'm sorry, I'm very candid, so forgive me if I'm being honest. Honesty is the best policy, y'all. Okay. But so the reason I came here is because it was very affordable. Like not charging if you're over like 12 credit hours, that was like the main thing because your boy is broke. So I had to figure out something that was like very affordable. And then like the class sizes, like, I don't know, going to a bigger school, like you just feel like you don't matter, like you're just a number. So coming here where like the teachers are like very personable and you can talk to them really anytime you want, even though sometimes I'll be missing class, but they still are like very understanding and like, I don't know, it's like you can talk to them and like they understand when you're going through something, so they're very lenient and like they work with you. So like it was just the affordableness of the college and like the class size, which really drew me. And the ROTC program, I have to put that in there. ROTC as well, because I'm a part of ROTC.
Great, great. And you're going to be commissioned
Yeah, next year in 2025.
May of 2025?
Yes, sir.
Congratulations. Okay. So now I'll start with you, Antonio. And since you have the mic.
Yeah.
And since you are the public speaker, you know, that you learned through Blue Coats. So, you know, in higher education today, there is a lot of question about whether or not it is worth the investment. And so students or individuals who are thinking about, do I want to go to college? Do I want to go to the university or not? And which one should I go to? What would you tell them?
Come here, especially here. Darlene made a lot of points, good points in terms of tuition fees, price range, just the overall like being able to speak to our professors in such a candid manner. Like they're very personable. So a lot of people I know for sure have a kind of a growing, well, I don't want to say fear, but more of like a, maybe like a, they're a little anxious when it comes to starting school again. Here would be a great first step into getting their degree. So I would always try to talk to someone, let them know, hey, try a class. One class, you can do online, you can do personal. So just to get your foot in the door, it'll be a good experience, and maybe you'll get addicted to it and come and actually finish your degree. And it's at your pace, so.
All right. Darlene, what would you say?
Well, Antonio made a really good point with it. But I'd say like college can be daunting, but it will open a lot of opportunities for you in the future if you give it a chance. And I'd say Texas A&M Central Texas would be a good university for that one because they offer a lot of resources and also like they support the students to become successful. Being an international student, the amount of support that I got from the people starting from the processing of my papers and enrolling to my classes is just commendable. So I'd say that this university is really great for everyone, and it's very student friendly as well, and they really help their student to become successful. And as a peer mentor right now, working as a peer mentor, I can attest with that one. That we really do our best to provide support to the students.
Awesome, awesome. Sarah?
I would say that college is something that anybody can do at any age. And this campus is amazing. I like the smaller class sizes. I like that it's personable with faculty and staff. I recognize so many faces in here, and I'm pretty sure you guys recognize me as well. There's just a lot of opportunities here, especially in the biology department, and it's amazing the amount of support that you get from faculty and staff, especially if you encounter a problem, whether it be paying for tuition or getting help with a subject that you're learning. Professors here are amazing. Their open door policy where they help us with anything that we need. And you do not feel scared or anxious in asking them for help, and then you also make some incredible friends. Because the classroom sizes are smaller than larger universities, you get to know your peers so much. And the clubs that are here, Science Club.
You're the president of that,
I am
right?
the president of the Science Club. I need a VP. Anybody? But we do amazing things here with the Science Club, and I want to see the biology program grow.
All right. And Frederick, what would you like to add?
I would tell that person to take like a leap of faith. I know a lot of times people think college is going to be exactly like high school, which is like completely wrong. It's completely different. So I would just tell them to take a leap of faith and then reach out, especially this school. Like everyone, like this is like my third college that I went to. And then at this college, I feel like every department is so knowledgeable on what they're actually doing. Like I found out a lot of stuff that I didn't know going to my other schools, which is crazy. But yeah, like they're very knowledgeable and like will help you through the process. So it's all about just having resources and reaching out. A lot of people don't know, like they think like, oh, college is going to be so hard. I'm just going to be out there on a boat, like left to just die. And that's not the case. Like there's people who will help you through the process.
All right. Okay, next question. And we'll start with Darlin on this one. And the question is, think about one very memorable experience that you've had here at Texas A&M University, Central Texas. What would that be?
If I get to choose, it will be something meeting. It would be meeting a lot of people every day. It's an everyday thing. You meet a lot of people, different people. You hear a lot of their stories. You learn from them, and I think that would be something that is memorable for me because they help me grow personally, academically, and professionally. And also the moments that we spend together, the bond that we form, it will always be something that I will cherish forever. So those are the beautiful memories that I will always have with this university. So
Awesome. Sarah?
The most memorable moment for me was last semester. I'm doing research right now and in a heritage hall, and I've got a lot of bugs. I'm doing a predator choice experiment, and I put a lady beetle in a petri dish with the two caterpillars, one that fed on green cabbage and one that fed on red cabbage. And when the lady beetle attacked the caterpillar that fed on red cabbage, the caterpillar regurgitated the toxins that it sequestered from the red cabbage. And when that lady beetle got into contact with that toxin, it was a dramatic difference. The way that it was moving, it was like a neurotoxin. It changed like the way it moved. It couldn't climb up the walls. It was very shaky. It was kind of like he was drunk, but that was very memorable for me. And anybody that I came into contact with, because I recorded it on my phone, I was like, look at this, look at this, look at this. So that was exciting.
So do you eat red cabbage now?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It doesn't hurt us. It hurts. It's a defensive mechanism. So.
Okay. All right. Antonio.
A memorable experience here at the university, and I'm gonna have to give the flowers to the UPD. Was one day I was giving a tour to a potential student, and I didn't know, but I guess my phone screen was on, so it actually opened up the Safe Zone app,
Yeah. Well, I
and
better
it
check.
set off an alarm. So it was weird because that week I was actually waiting on a carpet, and so I was getting a phone call, and I was like, "Ooh, I'll call you. I'll talk to you later." I was like, "Give me a second." And then they called again, and they were trying to reach out to me. I was like, "Oh man, this carpet must be very important." So I tried to. I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" I was like, "Hey, this is UPD. Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay. Oh, give me 1 second because I'm on a tour real quick. I'm sorry." And then they actually had an officer meet me at the gym while I was providing the tour. And they're like, "Hey, are you okay?" I was like, "That's what that was? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. What happened?" Is like, "Your Safe Zones app is going off." I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." So that's a memorable experience because, well, UPD, they're making sure that we're safe.
Yes.
And that, everything works. So
Awesome. Frederick.
My memorable moment, this is kind of boring, but it's my campus tour when I was like debating on if I should come here. I don't know, it's like it's the reason I decided to come here because campus tour was very good. Like the energy just felt right. It just felt like it was the right thing. So I was like, let me just go off of my gut and just go through with it. So yeah, that's it.
All right. Okay. Another question is, what could we do better at Texas A&M Central Texas to help students achieve their dreams and progress? And so what is it that, if you could name one thing that we could do better, what would it be?
I feel like the main thing, well, personally for me, being like, because technically my family lives in Cedar Park, so I stay in the dorms at CTC. So the main thing for me would be housing, but I know that's
Housing.
already been like
Okay.
the main issue. Yeah.
Okay.
It's-
Affordable housing, right?
Yeah, affordable. I mean, it's affordable. Okay, let me try not to be rude, but the housing at CTC is decent. It's just not the best partnership. So I'm going to leave it there.
Okay.
what we can do to improve at the university would be trying to figure out how to make it more, what's the word? Not accessible, but we need more campus life. So
Campus life.
yes.
Okay.
So we're here, we're active. And the students that work here, we're always here, So we're always trying to figure out how to get other students to come and be active here at the university because of all the resources that's available to them, and also just, making that social connection again.
Great. Thanks, Antonio.
With me, I just want to add with what Antonio said. I mean, to have engaging student life, but also like take to consideration that we also have students who have like full-time job outside and that they have families. So I'd say activities or student life that is also convenient for those type of students.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. Sarah.
This one is personal for me. I would like to have a master's program in biology at this campus. The reason why I say that is because I want to continue my research here, and I can't do that because there isn't a master's program. So I have to hand my research off to somebody else, and that's kind of, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. But yes, I would love
Okay.
to have a biology master's program here.
Okay. So some more master's degree programs. Okay. Very good. So does anybody in the audience have a question for our students? Okay. Yes.
I'm stumped. I would say maybe like well, we have the OC, but maybe something that's a little more like I guess like a living room kind of. So like a place where, I don't know, like a foosball table. It's just very small ideas that I can think of right now. So like a foosball table, hockey table, a place with like bean bags, just I guess like basically like the lounge of a dormitory, but without the dorms. So
All right.
A dance. A formal dance. That would
Okay.
be amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Sorry.
I take it you like to dance.
I do like to dance, but I also like to dress up, so
Oh, okay. So we'll have a dress-up dance.
yes, a
Okay.
formal.
Okay. Darling, anything? You dad?
I can, just like what she said, the dance. I think just like the Halloween that we had here, where families were able to gather together, more of those type of activities that we have, like we get, those students can also bring their family and have some quality time together. I think those would be a great activities that we can do for those type of students.
Okay. So activities to bring family together. Okay, great.
I
Frederick?
feel like having events where it's like, I don't know, like comedy nights or like open mic nights or poetry slams, or like inviting like comedians or like a hypnotist. I feel like stuff like that is interesting and people would attend.
All right. Are you a poet by any chance?
I'm not a poet.
Oh, okay.
I'm a singer, but not a poet.
You're a singer?
Yeah.
What kind of music do you sing? What's your favorite genre of music?
Musical theater or R&B.
R&B, okay. And musical theater,
Yeah,
did you say? Okay.
Yeah, I love musical theater.
Like, do you have a favorite song or a favorite musical?
A favorite musical, it would either be, I don't know if anybody's seen it, but it's either The Wiz or the Color Purple musical. They just made a movie about the musical, but it's really good. But The Wiz is like my all-time favorite.
Okay. So, starting with you, Antonio, tell us one thing that nobody else knows about you. Why did everybody say, whoa?
Let me think. Some people already know. On my off time, when I have the chance, I like to work on cars. So I like going to the junkyard to find pieces. I drive a little, I call it my hoopty. It's a 2000 Camry, so it's got little things that I can work on here and there. Like the engine light keeps turning on. I was like, oh my God. So I'm trying to fix that. But it runs and drives. It's a Toyota, so you'll never see it fail. So
Okay, so mechanical.
yes.
Okay,
Hands
all
on.
right.
Not a professional, not certified. If I have a question, I look it up on YouTube. So
Okay. All right. Darling.
Oh. I guess the thing that a lot of people won't know about me is that I'm so bad at video games. I'm so bad at video
You're
games.
bad at it?
I'm so bad at it that to the point my friends get annoyed when I play it with them. So yeah.
That sounds like me and my grandson. He gets annoyed with me.
It's hard. I don't know, I just find it hard, but I enjoy playing with them. So either way, I love it.
Great. Sarah.
A few people know this, but I am a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed when I was 22. And unfortunately, I carry the breast cancer gene. I had the cancer removed that next, I think it was like maybe 3 weeks after that. I then had to have a hysterectomy because the cancer that I had was estrogen grown. But I've been cancer-free now for almost 10 years. And
All right.
And yeah, so it's been a journey.
Yeah. So is that why you picked biology? by any chance today?
I picked, I thought I wanted to be a gynecologist obstetrician. I wanted to work with women and do women's health because there's not a lot of women doctors that specialize in just women. And so I got my associate's degree in pre-med, and then when I transferred here, I started getting really interested in the environmental programs that we have here, and I really like the plants, I really like the bugs, I really like all that stuff that has to do with biology. And then I found out how long it takes to become a doctor, and I was like, I'm too old. I'm way too old. So, but yeah.
Okay. Last question, and this is, I didn't get
I feel
you.
like I already told you something.
Yeah,
But,
he's the singer.
Yeah. I guess one thing, so I like to bake. So I'm originally from Mississippi. That's where my family from. So if you ever need like red velvet cake, peach cobbler, pound cake, I got you.
I'm always in the market for that. So do you sing while you bake?
Yeah, I guess I do. I feel like baking is already my stress reliever, but yeah, I didn't sing and that's, helpful.
Okay. All right. So last question. Where do you want to be 5 to 10 years from now?
I would say working in anything involving political advocacy, more specifically for minorities and Hispanics. So I'm trying to work on what is it called? The Show Me Your Papers bill. So I've been hopefully trying to get up and running with going to school here and also trying to find other people that want to do this political action reform. So.
Okay. So by any chance, did you watch the debate last night?
I could not, because I didn't know it was there.
Yeah.
Well, bad political science major, so.
You're not graded on this, so you're okay. Okay. Darlin.
In 5 years or 10 years from now, I hope that I'll be successful working in tech or oil and gas industry, and also I hope continue doing higher education. So that's the goal, hopefully, and I hope that I get to reach that goal.
And I hope you can do it here at
Yeah.
Texas A&M Central Texas.
I'm hoping with that one too. I hope they get a PhD program or a research program that
Yes.
will actually be helpful in tech or oil and gas industry. That would be very helpful and
Very
great.
good. Very good. Sarah, where do you want to be?
Hopefully either have my doctorate or working on my doctorate. And a grandma. I want to be a grandma so bad. My daughter's 24. Come on.
Yeah, don't, let me just say, don't rush it.
In 5 to 10 years, I would like to either have a PhD or be working on a PhD and my dream job is to either be a genetic counselor or to be like a physician assistant that specializes in genetics. I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like my life's mission is to have like a clinic for lower income families that provides like genetic testing, because I know a lot of times it's not on people's insurance. I know my mom, she had breast cancer twice, so we had to go through that whole issue of like not being able to afford or pay for like the genetic testing. So that's something I really want to do.
Awesome. Hey, join me in thanking our panelists. Yes. Don't we have amazing students? Yeah. Awesome panelists. Thank you so much. And you can be dismissed. All right. Now, while Dr. Milliron is setting up his slides, let me introduce him and tell you just a little bit about him. I told you that I first got to know him when we were in graduate school together at the University of Texas at Austin in the Community College Leadership Program. And that was when I first met him, I thought, this guy is going to be a rock star. one day because he is the most articulate spokesperson on higher education, even at that young age, that I had ever met. And so he has gone on since then. So he's been a vice president for academic affairs and student affairs at Malin Community College in North Carolina. He has moved around and picked up different perspectives on higher education. He was also been the CEO and president of the League for Innovation. He also worked for Oracle Corporation, worked for SAS Institute. He is a co-founder and the chief learning officer for Civitas Learning, actually a product that we just purchased last semester, I think. So, and implementing. He also worked for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and is currently the president and CEO of National University. And National University is in San Diego, California. It has a lot of similarities to what we are and in the student population. And when you take a look at the makeup of their population, it looks very much like Texas A&M, Central Texas student population. And he was the inaugural chancellor of Western Governors University, Texas, serves on the advisory committee for Western Governors, was also the dean of the Department of the Education Department at Western Governors University. He is currently the chair of Trellis Foundation Board and is on the board of Bennett College in North Carolina, which is an HBCU, led by a very inspirational leader, Suzanne Walsh. And so please join me in welcoming Dr. Mark Milliron. And one of the reasons, I just have to tell you while he's standing right here, one of the reasons I wanted to bring him up here is we are embarking during the spring semester on updating our strategic plan for the university for the next 5 to 10 years. And what do we need to think about? And one of the reasons why I wanted the student panel up here to kick off this session is we need to hear what the students believe about us. We need to hear the voice of the students on where they're at, what's important to them, what excites them, because all of that information needs to be taken into context and into consideration as we build out our strategic plan for the future. But we also are in a planning stage. So not only strategic plan, but we just finished the campus master plan. We just finished the academic master plan. And so a lot of thought has been going into what's the future look like. You know, one of the things you heard is more master's degrees. There are 3 master's degrees in that hopefully we will submit to the system and then to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board during the spring semester. And we're also working on our first doctoral program to be submitted to the system and to the coordinating board, which will change our status with SACS, which, by the way, we're in our 5-year review, and so thank you, Dr. Cood. Trying to finalize that right now as we speak, and that's a heroic job in itself, so thank you. With all of that, setting kind of a context for where we're headed and why we're doing what we're doing today, let me welcome Dr. Mark Milliron.
Let me just begin by telling you I've been doing this work in the world of higher education and actually K-12 education for coming into my 4th decade of doing this work. And I got to tell you how lucky you are to have a leader like Dr. Rhodes. He's just an authentic, caring person. He is who he is. And he cares deeply about the students that you're serving and cares deeply about the teams he works with. And it's just amazing to watch him work. I've seen him do this kind of work in lots of different settings and also on boards nationally. And again, you just have one of those rare leaders who just is who he is, and there's no agenda other than helping more and more diverse students be more successful than ever before. Give him a big round of applause. So for today's conversation, a couple predicates. One, do not worry, it will not be death by PowerPoint. I do a lot of student focus groups myself, and students have told me that a lot of people who use PowerPoint have no power nor a point. So I'm always careful about that. But anybody who wants it, you'll get a PDF of the PowerPoint presentation from today. And why I say that is because I'll talk about a lot of books, I'll talk about a lot of research articles, I'll talk about a lot of examples, because what I know from higher ed audiences is they want the receipts. They want to know who are the people who are doing these kinds of things, and I want to talk to them, right? And you want to go on your own kind of journey. So I've loaded this with links, so you can go on your own kind of journeys in doing that, and just feel free to use it however you need to use it. What we're hoping to do is to catalyze a conversation about how we lead towards a new possible in the world of education, how we create this future. And I've been doing this kind of work, like I said, coming into my 4th decade of doing this kind of work for a long time. And what I know is this journey is interesting and it goes in directions you don't expect. And we in the world of higher education have to be much more about playing jazz than playing classical music. Those of you who are musicians know exactly what I'm talking about. I have a brother who is a wonderful classical music player and another who is a jazz player, and they can't even speak the same language, right? Because just how that process is different in terms of our ability to kind of riff off themes. Before I jump into this, I want to set the context for where we are. I was thinking about this last night, Richard. I went to dinner with Richard and Kate last night, and it made me think of an experience I had a while ago, actually pre-9/11, which was interesting. I was traveling from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles. It was back when I was president of the League for Innovation. And it was after one of those weeks where you do work nonstop, but you feel like you got nothing done. So I got to the airport, and I did what I always did. Got to the airport early. I boarded the plane early. And what I knew is I was going to have 5.5, 6 hours on that plane so I could actually get caught up on the work I did not get done. And I had in my mind, I'm going to pump out 300 emails. I'm going to finish an article I'm trying to finish. I was ready to roll. So I got on the plane early, had my little vat of coffee. I started spreading out. And it was in pre-9/11, the planes were more empty than they are now. So normally if you sat down and you got spread out, you could go. So I was putting my stuff away in the seat in front of me. I had my laptop up and going, and they were still kind of boarding the plane. And I'm thinking more and more, and the plane's like maybe half full. I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be good. I'm not going to have anybody beside me. I can kind of stretch out. I'm a big guy, so I kind of like to stretch out anyway. But sure enough, I look up the aisle, and coming down the aisle is this smiling young boy, maybe 12, 13 years old, who clearly is on the spectrum. And just a little background on me. I come from a family of 9 kids. I actually have an African-American brother, a Native American brother, and a Korean sister. In addition to that, my family hosted more than 25 foster kids. My mom was a special needs nurse, and my dad was out of his mind. And we always had at least newborns to 5-year-olds with special needs. My mom was a special needs nurse she actually became a specialist in kids who were addicted to crack cocaine. So we had all kinds of that dynamic. But she also specialized in kids with special needs, child abuse victims, those kinds of things. But we had a number of kids who had autism who were in our household. So I recognized the smile as he was coming down the aisle. And I caught eyes and I smiled at him. And as he's coming down, I thought to myself, oh, he's sitting next to me. Nothing wrong with it. I just knew it. I'm like, he's sitting next to me. And sure enough, the flight attendant who's walking with him comes right alongside me and he goes, sir, would you mind getting up? And I'm like, no. And I got up and she proceeded to put him down in the window seat. And I sat back down in the aisle seat. And the woman, she leans across me like I'm not even there, and she's talking to him. She's like, do not worry, this flight is about 6 hours. Your family's going to be there to pick you up when we get there. You're going to be good. If you have any questions, just ask this nice man right here. I'm like, wow, thanks. I guess we're in. I've been nominated. So she leaves, and I kind of look over, and he's kind of nervous and looking in all directions, and then he just looks right at me, and he's like, what's your name? I'm like, well, my name's Mark. What's yours? He goes, my name's Billy. And he looks at me, he's like, you're going to be my new best friend. I'm like, okay. And we just started having a conversation, and Billy was really loud, and he was really kind of fun. And we found out he was going to Los Angeles to meet with family and friends who are out there, and somebody in front of me started jumping in, like, oh, what are you going to do there? I'm going to Disneyland. Other people started jumping in. Where are you going to go to Disney? I'm going to go this, I'm gonna see a small world. And he was talking about this and that. People behind me jumping in. You have to make sure you go to Legoland too, and you have to make sure. And we had like 10 people in this conversation. We have not left the gate yet, right? And somewhere in this opening conversation, Billy lets out that he's scared of flying, and he literally says, he goes, "These things crash, don't they?" And the woman in front of me tries to be helpful, and she goes, oh, don't worry, Bill, that's not going to happen. All you have to do is, these things are really safe. You're going to be fine. She's like, just hold on tight when we take off, and you're going to be okay. And right around then, I realized it might not be okay, because he was scared. And right then, we kind of backed up from the gate. You could feel the kind of jolt, and he just got, you could see he was nervous. He's looking in all directions, and everybody starts getting into their seatbelts, and he's trying to like figure out, he's fumbling with his seatbelt. I'm trying to like help him and direct him, and we're getting him into his seatbelt, and we're taking off fast towards the bottom of the runway, and I could just see nervousness going. He is scared. You could tell he's scared, and I'm just telling him, like, calm down, don't worry, take off his fat. Once we get up in the air, it's nice and smooth. You're going to be good. He's getting more and more nervous. We get right to the base of the runway, and you know that moment when the engines catch? Like the engine just went, and we started going full blast. I looked over, oh my Lord. I thought we have a real problem here, because Billy is terrified. And you could see he's looking in all directions. He has grabbed the cushion beside him so forcefully, there's literally cushion coming from between his fingers. He is like looking in all directions, and suddenly his eyes start rolling back in his head. And he is in complete mode, and everyone's looking at me like I'm supposed to do something. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. We go into the takeoff, and he goes full back like this, and suddenly just drops straight down, head right in his lap, like he's out. I'm like, oh my! And so none of us know what to do. We're all looking at each other. I'm about to burst out of my seatbelt to go get somebody, and just before I get out, he jumps back up and he goes, "Just kidding." He's like, I got you," and he starts hitting my shoulder, and I'm like, wow. I kind of realized right then I wasn't getting much work done on that flight. Seriously. And I'm like, this is one of those moments where, okay, you're just going to be present for this, right? You're not going to, no matter what you thought you were going to do, you got to be present, right? And so I literally put my stuff away, put my backpack under my seat, put my stuff away. And it was one of the most enjoyable plane rides I ever had. We laughed so hard. You know when you laugh so hard that the next day your cheeks hurt? Like, that's how it was. It was so much fun. Like, and I swear, like 10, 15 of us bonded. We were like friends for life now. It was just really kind of neat experience. I bring that up, and why I was thinking about this last night is we're in this moment in the world of higher education in particular where so many of us had a plan. We kind of knew what we wanted to do. We knew the way we wanted to do it. We knew what we were a part of. But wow, things have showed up, right? And we're having to take a deep breath, and we're having to be present. You know what I'm talking about? And I'm just going to talk about a couple of the big ones. This little thing called the pandemic, right? I don't know about you, but I've been like with a bunch of friends lately where it's like, did that just happen? Did we literally like shut the entire country down and lose 1 million people? We lost faculty and staff. We lost students. Like, we had to change everything about how we were relating. Like, holy smokes. And we're trying to figure out, what does the post-pandemic world look like in terms of how we're going to do it? And we're still wrestling with elements of that whole thing. And then in the middle of all that, wow, we had all these social justice issues, the George Floyd murders, and all the things that were happening, and all the kind of wrestling around that. And then we had massive political upheaval in the middle of all that. It's like, holy smokes, the last 3-4 years, are you with me on this? This has been bananas. And the challenge around this is in the middle of all this, and I'm seeing it at National University right now, there are a whole lot of folks who are like, for the love of all that's holy in this universe, can we please just go back to normal? You know what I mean? And our problem is, here's our problem with going back to normal. Normal wasn't working for a whole lot of folks before we started. If you're low income, first generation, and going into higher education in this world right now, like, if you're high income quartile, highest income quartile, majority student population, you are 90% likely to finish higher education if you start it. If you're first generation low income and you're starting in this country, you know what your likelihood of finishing is? 12 to 18%. Anybody else see that as a problem? So people are now innovating like crazy around this and trying to figure out how to break the cycles of normal, because normal wasn't working for a whole lot of people. And people are like, well, we need a new normal. But new normal for so many people is like, okay, we're going to offer classes at night. Like that's not new normal, right? It's now thinking, and I'm going to push us to this notion of what I call a new possible. And the new possible, I stole this from a guy named Hans Rosling. Hans Rosling passed away recently, but his kids are carrying on the legacy. They're both PhDs. He was, I would call him an international good troublemaker. He was involved in anti-poverty campaigns against nuclear winter, like unbelievable kind of programs. And his last book, a book called Factfulness, he explains what he calls being a possibilist. And I love this quotation where he says, I'm not an optimist. That makes me sound naive. I'm a very serious possibilist. It means someone who neither hopes without reason nor fears without reason, someone who constantly resists the overdramatic worldview. As a possibilist, I see all this progress, and it fills me with conviction and hope that further progress is possible. It is having a clear and reasonable idea about how things are, and it is having a worldview that is constructive and useful, right? So I'm going to argue we don't need new normal. What we need is new possible. We need to vision what we possibly can do with this. And I love this perspective. And by the way, Hans Rosling was one of those people back in the 80s who was saying, hey, we can actually reduce extreme poverty in this world down into single digits. And people thought he was crazy. 38% of the world at that point was living in extreme poverty. And you fast forward after 3 decades of work, and now we're down at 8% extreme poverty around the world. It's pretty amazing, like the kind of projects and activities people can pull into. So what I want to do is talk a bit about how we, in the world of education, thinking about your own university here, but also thinking globally about the kinds of things we can do. I think we have a moment to vision a new possible and think about what's our way, what's your way, what are the things you're going to do. We're doing this at National, where I'm doing this at Bennett College as well, at an HBCU in North Carolina. We're kind of reimagining what's possible. And 3 big things. This is going to be, a lot of these 3 structures are drawn from Change Magazine. I was a guest editor of Change Magazine, which is kind of the magazine for higher education. We have people like ASU and Western Governors and MIT and others contribute to this edition around innovation in times of crisis and change. And it's a wonder. This will actually link you out to this journal, and you can get all the different articles that are a part of it. But 3 big things to take away. One is that we've got a new possibility infrastructure for the work we do in education. And I'm going to talk a bit about some of that infrastructure and given we have that infrastructure, we can now think about possibility design. Like, how do we design higher education in a way that makes sense for our students? And lastly, it is this idea that what I know in the work I've done in higher education is that higher education loves the CASE method. CASE stands for copy and steal everything, right? Somebody else does it, you want to pull it in, right? So we're going to talk about some models that you can kind of pull together and think about where you're going to go forward. And again, this is all going to be given to you in PDF. You can link out and pull this stuff together. But let's have some catalytic conversations as you begin your own strategic planning and think about where you're going. First, let's talk about the infrastructure. Over the course of the last 35 years, I began my work in higher education back when I met Richard. I spent almost a decade going all over this country. I have probably been to over 700 colleges and universities around the country easily, getting on campus, talking to people, and I began that work back in the kind of rowdy 90s. And I kid you not, my entire first decade felt like my job was basically group therapy on the internet. And what I mean by that is like all I was doing was trying to help higher education realize that one, the internet's a thing. You're actually going to be using the internet in the work you're doing. You remember those days? 95, 96, and like I would be at a conference like all of you are going to have websites. Every college or university is going to have a website. All of your programs are going to have website. People are like, you're on crack. That's not going to happen. And people like would get really mad about it. I'm like, no, it's actually, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and here's the process. But like, let's talk about how we shape it and how we kind of, how do we learn about it? How do we learn with it? How do we learn beyond it? What is that going to look like as we try to drive forward? And what I've learned, what I talked about then and what I absolutely know now is that as you're looking at new technologies, I think about National University. National University was founded by a Navy captain in 1971, PhD, David Chigos. Dr. David Chigos was heartbroken watching the sailors coming out of the Vietnam War not being well served by traditional education. And what he found was these people were trying to use their GI Bill and they were not being well, because they were being forced into Monday through Thursday, 8 to 2 p.m. classes that didn't work. You know what I'm talking about? So he said, let's invent something different. So him and a group of retired military officers founded a university totally focused on the military and working student and non-traditional students back in 1971 in partnership with WASC, and that's where it all stood up. And for 52 years, they've done that. We're now 50,000 students. Over half of our undergraduates are military still. We're kind of the USAA of higher education. And all branches are represented within that, but we are completely focused on non-traditional working and military students. That's who we serve, and we're proud about it. We're like, if you're 18-year-old and you want an on-campus experience, for the love of God, don't come here. Now, we're 65% online, 35% on ground, hybrid, just depends on the program, but we're focused on who we serve. But I bring that up because back in 1971, when we were innovating, the big innovation was 4-week classes and 8-week classes. And why that was the innovation is because if you're a working student, taking 4 classes or 5 classes at the same time while you're trying to raise kids and work full time, is that reasonable? No, it doesn't work. But one class at a time. Right? One class at a time really, really works. We've done it for 50 years with great graduation rates, really good success rates, because it's about cognitive load. It's like, how much can you really think about at the same time? And we were using this cutting edge asynchronous learning support along with our in-class experiences. It was called this thing called the tape recorder. But it was the new technology of the time, right? So fast forward to now, and our base infrastructure is this mix of a traditional infrastructure and a digital infrastructure. The almost like analog and digital, right? Where we've got classrooms and lecture halls and training labs and locations, simulators, office hours. But we also have this digital infrastructure that a lot of us didn't really realize how extensive it was until the pandemic. And then when the pandemic, I was like, we have an LMS, we all can use it. Like suddenly everybody realized we have this whole digital infrastructure, website, ERP, LMS, our digital content repositories. We have Zoom, Teams, whatever you want to use for your kind of meeting form. All that is part of our digital infrastructure. And what we realized, and I'm going down to the bottom here, is that it's not just for learning. We actually can use it for advising, for outreach, and for student support. Are you with me on this? So suddenly during the pandemic, we got wildly inventive about how we do this. And by the way, we weren't alone. Like, I don't know about you, but like during the pandemic, when the DMV started innovating with using digital technologies, I never want to go back. Because now I sign up for my time, I show up in the parking lot, they text me when it's my time, I go in, I'm out, I'm done. I'm like, I never want to go back to the cattle car DMVs again, right? Because they now have leveraged digital technology with the face-to-face and they've pulled it in. And our problem is so many people still want to pull us into an either-or conversation. What's better, traditional education or the online? It's nonsense. That's not where we are. And what we know is that there are some students who want and or need fully online, and there are some students who want and or need fully on ground. Most of it's in the middle. In fact, the data shows students who mix are by far the most successful in higher education. So part of what we have to think about is what's the mix of this digital infrastructure and the analog infrastructure to figure out the right mix for the students we're serving, for the programs we're providing, and the way we're pulling it together. This is an important conversation. The problem is this conversation gets hijacked. And it gets hijacked by the extremes, right? And I call them the dogmatic diatribes. There are people who think if you're not doing everything digitally, you're Satan and you're behind the times and you're horrible, right? And there are other people who are hyper-traditional who think that's just not real education, this is nonsense, it's not, you know what I'm talking about? And, I jokingly call it's like the clash between the true believers and the caustic cynics, right? And the caustic cynics are angry about everything, by the way. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. You bring manna from heaven. It's too salty for them. They don't want to change, right? How many of you know a caustic cynic somewhere in your world? And if you can't think of the caustic cynic, you might be. So point that out. The challenge for us is the rowdy place we want to be is in the reason center. We want thoughtful critics, we want careful advocates, we want people who are willing to kind of look at the data and understand what works for whom, and in what way. And we're getting better. The pandemic actually accelerated a lot of these conversations because a lot of our students have shifted their expectations and the kind of things they want and their need. What it really comes down to is this kind of mix of what do you want, what do your students want, what do they need, right? 'Cause sometimes wants and needs are different. And then what are your capabilities? Can you do it well, right? And that's the kind of question mix you have to ask yourself about how this is going to come together. Next thing about this infrastructure is there are always the newer technologies that are pushing us. And what I'll tell you is like we're in the middle of the mobile thing. Like the mobile thing is here, hard and ferocious, and we're only probably at about a C level in the world of higher education. It's just the realization the vast majority of students who are hitting our digital infrastructure are not hitting it with a computer or a laptop. They're hitting it with a mobile phone or an iPad, right? And we have not optimized our systems for mobile yet. In fact, we really have a hard time thinking about how mobile is going to change it. We're getting better. We're still in the middle of what mobile, in fact, one of our biggest challenges is for a lot of instructors, the only thing they want to talk about is how can they get people to turn off their mobile devices. Right, as opposed to thinking about how they can train them to use it in their learning. How can we actually train students to use those mobile devices in their professional lives? Because guess what? They're going to use it in their professional lives. How they understand the good, bad, and the ugly, and the etiquette of it as they're coming together. But that's going to be a big issue. But mobile is not it. We are also being heavily pushed, and we're seeing this big time at National University with augmented reality and virtual reality. And this isn't science fiction, this is here. The AR and VR is here, and people are now trying to get their arms around it. By the way, if you're not into AR, VR yet, I'm going to give you a piece of homework, and the homework is go find someone with an Oculus or a Meta headset and go to the education page and visit one of these. You've got to go spend some time, and these are all the education ones where you can actually look at the human anatomy, you can look at the ocean, you can look at space. You have to go on one of these. And I'm going to tell you this because I used to say this in the 90s about the internet, about you having to get on the internet and explore it, because if you don't do this, I think if you don't do this in the next year, it's educational malpractice. And why I say this is because this is the infrastructure of the future. Doesn't mean it's going to be the only thing, but it's going to be a thing. And when you get on this and realize you can teach human anatomy in 3D and actually look at, like if you go to the University of Toledo's biolab and they have a holographic cadaver pop in front of you and you can pick the disease state, you can pick the stage, it changes everything. Right, in terms of what you're doing. This is going to be coming, and if you're not already doing it, you're going to be doing a lot more of it. So just start thinking about what this is going to mean and what you're going to get people. When you're looking at what Apple's turning out right now, what Google's turning out right now in terms of these tools, it's going to be more and more. And what we have to think about is how do we use them? How do we prepare students for them when they're going to be using this in their professional lives? This is one frontier. The next frontier, obviously, by the way, during the pandemic, we used virtual reality at National University to train nurses in crisis clinical environments for COVID. And we did it because training them in VR was a lot safer than training them in live clinical situations with a disease we didn't know anything about. Right, and so we did a ton of, Dr. Gloria McNeil was amazing in kind of putting these kinds of things out. It became the go-to move for us. And for National, this has not been a hard sell because we're so military focused. Everyone's focused on simulations already. So doing this kind of work made it very simple for us to pull together. But our next frontier is going to be AI. And so we're having deep conversations, and I'm sure you are as well, about, in fact, we have a great bachelor's, master's, and doctoral program in data analytics and artificial intelligence. Jody Reeves, who is our head professor for this, is working with MIT and Berkeley on this. What we have found is, here are the three conversation things. You have to think about What do your students need to learn about AI? Because almost every profession is going to leverage AI in some way. So what do they need to learn about with AI? How can they learn with AI, which is what are the tools we can use in terms of artificial intelligence? You're doing it with some of the Civitas work and other things you're doing, how you can use AI to help them learn, but then also learn beyond, which is how can you help them understand the good, bad, and the ugly, and understand the kind of ethics of this whole thing, and understand algorithmic justice, for example, right? And understand what the implications of this is going to look like. But this is all part of our infrastructure we're going to have to think about. Why this will take you out to an article about how we actually think about AI in this work. But that's all infrastructure. These are all things we can do. This combination of face-to-face, online, mobile, virtual reality combined with AI, it seems like a whole lot, but it's actually, if you're an educator who loves having tools, this is the best tool set you've ever had, right, to think about how you pull it together. Are you with me on this? Okay, and it's going to be rowdy, and anybody who says they have the perfect playbook, they're lying to you, right? Because we're going to be figuring this out. We're going to be learning what works for whom and in what way, and we have to kind of put our minds around it. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is take this next step, which is think about how we're going to design learning experiences leveraging this infrastructure. And this is where I'm going to encourage you to adopt this combination of design thinking, data science, and domain expertise. And I'll get to where those big three come from. But design thinking really matters. And we learned a lot about design thinking during the pandemic, because during the pandemic, we had to really rethink what we were doing and reimagine. And those of you who know design thinking and the core principles behind it, you know you begin with empathy, you get really clear about the problem or opportunity you're trying to take advantage of, you prototype, you test and tune, and then you kind of roll it out. Design thinking is not obviously a big thing with Stanford D School and all the other folks who are doing it, but it is a discipline that makes you get out of your own comfort zone. You began the day by doing empathy work, right? Understanding who your students are, because you have to begin with empathy. If you don't begin with empathy, you can't design correctly, because you're designing things for technologists as opposed to designing things for the students themselves. If you do this work, you realize really interesting things. Like, I jokingly talk about this. My kids love cereal, but they don't like soggy cereal. So they designed this bowl to do what? To evenly distribute, so you can bring just enough cereal over to get it just the right sogginess as you're going along. My kids fight over these bowls, right, because of this. My wife, she's okay waking up, but she does not like the alarm, right? So this alarm actually begins with soft music as early as it can, and then slowly brings the light up and wakes you up gently, as opposed to waking you up in a forceful way. Again, they began with the design thinking principle as pulling it together. I love this example of Starlink. We have a house in rural western North Carolina, in addition to the house we have in San Diego for the university. In rural western North Carolina, up in the Appalachian Mountains, there are no land internet. There is no fiber. So without satellite, you're not going to get on the internet, and it's painful. And when Starlink came along, everyone rushed to go get Starlink, because with Starlink, with a satellite, you can get 200 megabit downloads plus uploads, and you basically you're on the internet as you kind of go. We ordered our Starlink, finally got it about 8-9 months ago, and my son and I got the box, we opened it up. They designed it. If you haven't watched the Apple box opening videos for YouTube, I would encourage you. Apple has designed the entire process of opening an iPhone for the first time, and they call it the box opening process. It's worth watching because they've thought through everything. What's someone going to do first when they do this? What are they going to do when they open that up? So they've really mapped the entire process. They basically did the same thing with this satellite. So you open up the satellite thing, just giant kind of instruction thing with 5 pictures on it. And I kid you not, in 21 minutes, my son and I had popped the satellite outside, wired it to the inside, and turned on the thing, and it was working. And just think about it for a second. In 21 minutes from getting a box, we had wired a satellite dish to our house and got 200 megabit downloads working across our entire network. And I'm just amazed by the combination of technology and design work that makes it that simple, right? That's the kind of thing where you can make it simple even though it's radically complex. My dad was in the Navy. It was a Navy chief. Those of you who know that, they're the people who get things done. And he used to talk about how if people actually knew the complexity of what it takes to produce electricity and distribute it through a city and get it to your house and turn it on at a switch, and the light turns on, it's like magic, right? It's like, and that's because of good design. People have designed it in a way for that to kind of come together. I'll give you another simple example. In the mid-2000s, with the rise of electronic medical records, they finally realized we can do things differently with data instead of just having the charts. By the way, electronic medical records were controversial as can be in the healthcare community. They freaked out about EMTs for a long time, AMRs for a long, long time. And they finally realized, hey, let's do something interesting with this. And the folks at Cleveland Clinic started the MyChart Initiative. And the MyChart Initiative, and I was at SAS at the time, we were big players with Brigham and Women's and with Yale New Haven and with Cleveland Clinic. And they were rolling out the MyChart Initiative. And the basic theory was, if we can design the presentation of biometric data to patients in a way that they would actually be able to consume it, they might be able to manage their own health in a way where they can be healthier and better, especially for people with chronic diseases, right? Like diabetes or Addison's or things like that. There were doctors who were terrified of giving patients their own data, but the other doctors were like, for the love of God, get this out because they're driving me bananas because people are going to WebMD and self-diagnosing and coming in with printouts. Like, get them something right away. So once they rolled out the MyChart Initiative and they tested and the outcomes were unbelievably positive, they said, we have to start doing more of this, especially with patients with these kinds of diseases, to get them the data they need to be able to manage the kind of pieces. Now, fast forward to today. The majority of the adult population in the United States uses some kind of biometric data monitor. How many of you in here have some kind of biometric data? It's crazy. Whether it's a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or whatever it is, people are attached to their biometric data and they're using it all the time to be able to drive it together. This is all part of design. If you have a Fitbit or the Apple Watch, especially the Fitbit is constantly redesigning the app because they're refining how usable that data is and it tries to modify your behavior based on the design principles. I'll give you the final example to kind of bring this home. How many of you know this machine? What is the machine? It's an MRI. So I'm at that classic age and stage. I have 4 kids, which my mom calls a starter family. You'll get that. Okay, so we have 14 to 25. My kids were getting big into sports, especially my daughter was an amazing basketball player that had 3 boys who were all bodyguards to her. But I have like a 6'8" son and another 6'5" son, but they were really starting to get into lifting, so I was trying to show them how to do lifting, and I was doing way too much. And I ended up tearing my shoulder showing off, which they laugh about to this day. So anyway, my shoulder was in agony. I can't even sleep. I'm having all kinds of problems. I have to go to the doctor. So I go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, okay, let's do a sonogram and really do an x-ray and check out your shoulder. And he came back with the view of my shoulder and sonogram. He goes, the bad news is, you have what we clinically call old man shoulder. I'm like, is that a thing? Like, what is that? He's like, no. He goes, you were a former athlete. You have tons of bursitis and arthritis and other things in there. You have some chips. He goes, but I also think you have 2 tears. He goes, but I can't really get to where the tears are until we do an MRI. So I'm going to send you down to do an MRI. So they sent me down to Austin Radiological Center to do an MRI. Now, again, I had helped launch the kind of the health data revolution. I was a big part of Brigham and Women's and Yale New Haven and all that kind of larger work. So I've been around this for a long time. So I know about MRIs. I have a lot of friends who are docs. I've watched House. There's a lot of MRIs in the House. Like, there's a lot of drama happening around the MRI. I'm like, this can't be too big of a thing. So I go down to the MRI, and I go in, and the guy who's working at the MRI is a guy I played basketball with at the Y. I'm like, hey, Tim, what's going on? He's like, oh, hey, Mark, what's going on? And comes in, and I'm in my gown, and he goes, okay, sit down. He goes, no, because, and we start talking about the job. He's like, oh, I'm loving this job, this, that, and everything else. And then I start to get ready to go in, and he goes, you're not claustrophobic, are you? And I literally did not think I was claustrophobic. I've been in like lava tubes 2 miles under the ground in Oregon. I've like done all kinds of stuff. I've never had a claustrophobic reaction to anything. I'm like, I don't think so. And he goes, okay, good. I'm going to give you this little thing, and if you push this button, it'll stop it. He goes, but for the love of God, don't do it. He's like, it's just such a problem because so many people can't take it, and they have to push the button, and we have to redo it. And I'm like, oh, great. We're starting with shame. This is not good. And I lay back on the plank, and suddenly it's like, ooh, I start going towards the hole. And as we start going back, Tim and I have this moment where we kind of look at each other, and we look back at the hole, and we look at each other, and we kind of do the math, and we realize, I'm not going to fit in the hole. Like, I'm 6'4", 250. I'm like, as I'm going back towards the hole, he goes, oh, we might have to scoosh your other shoulder. I'm like, scoosh? And I'm still going in the hole. He grabs my other shoulder and scooshes it, like turns it this way. And I'm like this, going into this thing. And I'm going suddenly into the MRI. And I'm just like this, and the things in front of me like this. My heart's going 1,000 miles an hour. I'm toothpaste going back in the tube. And I'm going back, and it's freaking me out. And then I realize, I'm like, oh, it's just my shoulder. They're just going to go up to my waist. I'm going to be okay. No. All the way up to my ankles in there. And I'm suddenly just locked in there like this and I'm beginning to panic. Like my heart is beating like crazy. And Tim is trying to, I don't think he can tell I'm scared yet because I'm beginning to freak out internally. He goes, he goes, you're going to hear some clicking and popping. Don't worry about that. That's normal. And then he's like, and he goes, don't worry. This only takes like 35 minutes. I'm like, 35 minutes? Like, what are you talking about? 35 minutes? And he leaves. And so like my heart is just like going bananas. And I've done martial arts for years. I've competitively fought martial arts and all that stuff. So I go into my meditation routine and I'm trying to calm myself down. And I'm thinking to myself, other people have done this, you can do it. And I'm bringing my biometrics down, bringing my heart rate down. But literally my heart is pounding out of my chest. I bring it down. I'm like, okay, back to my happy place. I'm like, okay, I might be able to get through this. And then the clicking and popping starts. And for those of you who don't know the clicking and popping of an MRI, it's just this little sultry, subtle sound of the entire time. It doesn't stop. It's just that entire time. And I'm sitting there like, what? And my heart's going like this. So I'm trying to calm myself down. I'm going through it, and then I'm feeling like I'm trying to be heroic. I'm like, okay, you can get through this. You can do this. You can do this. And I'm self-talking my way through it. And I'm feeling like it feels like it's been forever. I'm like, okay, we have to be almost done. Like this has to be done. And suddenly it's like, okay, Mark, you are 5 minutes in. I'm like, 5 minutes away. Anyway, long story short, we go through all 35 minutes. Finally, it's like, ooh, slowing birthing process ever. Ooh, I get all the way out. Oh my gosh, I think when I finally got out, I jumped and leaped in the air. I think I ran to my car naked. I just got out as fast as I could. And I called a buddy of mine who's a doc. I'm like, Bill, what is going on with the MRI? I'm like, is this reaction normal? He's like, Mark, you have no idea how normal the reaction you just had is. He goes, in fact, we have a huge problem with the MRI because we have huge failure rates. He goes, and it's really bad with kids. He goes, with kids, it's like over a 50% failure rate, costs us tons of money. We have to bring in anesthesiologists, and they can't knock you out. They can only bring you because they have to control you by voice because you jerk in your sleep. He goes, so it costs tons of money for the anesthesiologist, for this and for that. He goes, it's just a nightmare. He goes, not to mention with kids, he goes, a whole bunch of them have to go in for claustrophobia counseling afterwards because it's so traumatic for them. Now, I told you this story for a very specific reason. The people who designed this machine were not evil. The people who designed this machine were highly trained medical professionals trying to get pictures that would allow them to help with diagnostics and with patient care. They wanted to save lives. They wanted to improve the quality of life. They were trying to help people. And the MRI alone has saved millions and millions of lives because of its ability to identify everything from cancer states to disease states of all different shapes and sizes, literally millions. But when they designed it and they optimized it to get the best pictures possible. What they didn't ever consider in designing it was what? They didn't think about the patient experience. And what's what they were optimizing for. What they didn't realize was the interaction effect between a patient experience and medical outcomes. Meaning, people who desperately need the MRI, who are terrified of these things, avoid them and actually don't go to their appointments. People who have chronic diseases who could be managing disease states better if they would go to these aren't going to them. So now they have a huge design challenge, which is how can we bring the patient experience in to make it more likely that people are going to take advantage of this and have a good experience so that they can use this machine in a more effective way. Does that make sense? It's a whole different way of approaching this. So they started working with IDEO. This will link you out to an article where IDEO worked with GE to redesign the MRI. And they began with the kids problem. How to solve the kids problem. And so they redesigned the MRI. One of the ones that won was the Buzz Lightyear, but my favorite one is the pirate ship. And the pirate ship is not just paint. It's an open MRI, which is a bigger hole technology. But then for the kids who go in it, they have an AR, VR headset, and they go on a pirate adventure while they're in there. And it's this whole process. And it brought a failure rate of 40% down to below 3%. And no claustrophobia counseling, some pirate counseling, but no claustrophobia counseling whatsoever. Their biggest problem with this is it's only for kids. And the parents are going by like, I want to be a pirate. Like, I'm one of them. Like, I'll be a pirate. Let's do this quick. But I bring this up because think about this for a second. By thinking about patient experience, it transformed the entire thing. And something incredibly important, combined with patient experience mindset, helps them design something that can make impact. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Like, I would argue a lot of our designs in the world of education are probably great in isolation, but especially for like National University, and I'll just talk about us, our dominant student population, we're average age of 33. We range in age from 18 to 80 if you come to one of our commencements. 50,000 students every year, 80,000 workforce students. But our students are non-traditional, working, and military. They absolutely have to be designed for their lives, which means we have to think about how we're flexible in that. Now, you're going to have a mix because you serve a combination. And you got to think about your students and how you design for your students in a way that really makes sense. That's going to bring the challenge to you in a different way. I'm going to give you a couple books to read on this. One is a book called Range by David Epstein, really good read. But the chapter he has in there on wicked domains, where he talks about education and healthcare, where he says the design process has to be connected with data science, basically data science, design thinking, and domain expertise. You need domain expertise. You need people who've been in this world, who get it, who can help with the design process. It really matters. By the way, if you're a fan of the liberal arts, you're going to love the book Range, because he basically blows up the Tiger Mom thing and basically says everyone who thinks like this 10,000 hour rule is nonsense. Like, what you want is you want a broad base of experience so you can have analogy-based thinking and problem solving. It's really a fascinating read. The other book just came out a few months ago called The Perennials. Our entire leadership team has been reading this. And basically it makes the case the combination of increased lifespans plus health span plus technology is going to change the way we experience and get us away from the sequential life, which means we're going to have more people coming back into education and rotating in and out, and we're going to have to think more and more about how we're operating with people and around people. Fascinating read, absolutely worth the read if you're going to do it. So, infrastructure, design, and here's some people to go steal some ideas from on the models. Go to mastery.org. Mastery Transcript Consortium is 400 private and public schools and school districts from around the country who come together around getting rid of grades. And what they basically have done is they've adopted mastery-based learning. Some people call it competency-based learning or proficiency-based learning. But mastery.org, what they basically say is that grades are, they just take education off target. We end up in these dialogues about an imperfect measure of a poorly designed kind of rubric that is really hard to enforce. Like, what you really want is, are students mastering the content and can they progress? And what you end up is, if you actually do the deep dives with students about what causes trauma for them, it is grade stuff. It is bananas. And if you can get the grade stuff out of there and really get into the learning, it changes the dialogue. Well, what they learned was the main reason schools weren't going away from it was because of going from high school to college, they needed transcripts. So they created the Mastery Transcript Consortium, and they developed a mastery-based transcript that's in software form that can, and they worked with University of Michigan, with Princeton, with Stanford, and they now are sending mastery-based transcripts off to elite universities all around the country. And what they're saying is, because, and again, this is a digital infrastructure to change the way we're doing things. Remember, we have to have an infrastructure, we have a design challenge. The design challenge is grades are not healthy. They're a challenge for us, they're a challenge for students. Can you do it differently? Yes, with this infrastructure, they're now doing it differently. I will tell you the same thing I said back in the 1990s about the internet. This is a thing. Right, we're seeing mastery-based learning begin to take off. And if you look, they're not alone, right? The Global Online Academy, which are the most elite private schools from around the world who are now connecting on this, are now all part of the Mastery Transcript Consortium and pulling this in. This is Cranbrook and Sidwell Friends and Lakeside. These are like elite college schools around and also Choate. Jakarta International Institute, Beijing Academy, that are all using mastery-based transcripting. Here in the US, obviously, Western Governors University has been doing this at scale, 200,000 students now in mastery-based learning. So you might want to think about whether or not mastery-based learning makes sense for you or competency-based learning makes sense for you. You might not, but it's one of the things you can do, right? You can steal, and they've used technology to be able to make this happen. And what's interesting is this is actually the Oxford model. Right? The Oxford model was never about grades. We invented grades during the Industrial Revolution to sort students. Let's be blunt. It's less than 100 years old. Like so the idea is there another way to do it that could actually get to learning at a deeper conversation? I'm going to brag on Richard and Kate, okay? This is from their work with the accelerator. They developed a 600-station mastery-based learning, competency-based learning program to actually help with developmental education that helps students get through the math problems they were having and literally get through, what, Richard, 3 courses in math in 3 months because they will do the work they'd work and they would drive at their own pace. The accelerator has been a wild success, and the students are voting with their feet. They'll come early in the morning, stay late at night, and just keep at the work they're doing. It's been fascinating to watch it take off. At National University, we've stolen from this, and we're actually creating, in partnership with community colleges, and it's funny hearing your students talk about this, we're creating these places called healthy learning centers. And healthy learning centers, you know the concept of the WeWork sites? The co-working, we're actually developing kind of basically We Learn sites. There's sites because a lot of folks who are doing online and digital learning, they don't want to come to a class, but they still want to come to a place. And so sometimes home is not a safe place to learn. Home is not a quiet place to learn. They don't have high-speed internet. They also don't have just-in-time tutoring support, food and drink. You know what they also don't have? What we've really found? Childcare. So we're partnering with the YMCA, and the YMCA is doing the childcare. They drop their kids off and then come into the HLC, and they can do their digital learning for 2-3 hours and then go pick their kids up. And it becomes their third place. It's their home away from home. They can see other students like them. They can get just-in-time support. But it's rethinking what facilities is. And we're going to be doing this in partnership with community colleges and with YMCAs. Right? And it's a way to think about the infrastructure you have and how you can deliver the learning in a different kind of way. Our big thing in National is we have what we call ANDers. Almost every one of our students is a parent and a student, right? They're a military member and a student, or they're an employee and a student. The ANDers are a different design challenge. It sounds like you have some ANDers here. What do you think? So the question is, are you designing for ANDers? And are you thinking about what this looks like? And this will take you out to some of the conversations on it. This is a really important design concept. A lot of people, when they're thinking about higher education, they talk about these pathways, and they talk about higher education as though it's your college degree is a collection of classes. No, your college experience should be a family of experiences that happens to include classes. So one of the things you do while you're there is class. You're also going to have mentorships and relationships and experiences, and you want to think about how do you curate those, whether it's service learning, whether it's internships, whether it's creating connections. That curated experience is at your fingertips because you have this new infrastructure. So for example, we're big fans of near peering. Right? So you can go to Near Peer. There's a great little program called Near Peer that does this. There's also, I think UT San Antonio has a big program of this, of a supplemental instruction where they use Near Peers, students who've been successful, who once they're done get hired to go back and help the next generation of students that are coming through the courses. It just creates relationships. And by the way, it helps those students become better learners and helps them stick and stay. All kinds of things you can do to kind of pull this together. The last thing I'm going to tell you is, as you're doing this work, you want to make sure you're doing this, and this is for your own strategic plan. You want to do great work in a great way, which means you have to design it in a way where you can, at your best, kind of feel like you're a part of something that is meaningful. So at NU, one of the things we've done is we really did this big, like thousands of people who are part of this process. We basically said, if we want to be at our best and actually do this work in a great way, what would we be evidencing at our best? If people were watching us at our best, what would we be doing? And we came down to these kind of 5 ways of work, which means if you're looking at our board, if you're looking at our work in faculty governance, if you're looking at our work in operations, you should see us championing student success, building trust. By the way, building trust internally and externally with the folks we're serving, advancing inclusion internally and externally. We should be embracing accountability, and my favorite is make things better. And notice we didn't say innovation, because often if you say innovation, people don't see themselves in that. Make things better can be a big innovation, but it can also be pick up the trash in the parking lot. It can be fix the drop-down menu on the screen. You with me on this? It's every little thing. If you haven't read the book Atomic Habits, it talks about every little thing. And it adds up over time if you're doing it. But this has been transformative to us. We've been using this with our board now. Our board operates, our board meetings showing this. We've revamped all of our faculty governance. We actually, we had a blow up with the AAUP probably 4 years ago. And as I came in, we changed that. We re-embraced shared governance, and we created our infrastructure based on this. Right, and now we have wonderful frameworks for working with our faculty and with our larger university senate on this kind of framework. This is an article that'll talk about this. We've actually created this partnership between our academics and our operations. But the bottom line is we want to do great work in a great way. You want to build an infrastructure where people can do their life's best work, right? If you're going to pull this all together in some ways. There is so much to do in this work. There really is so much to do in this work. I do have a little bit of time for questions. Before I get there, though, I'm going to tell you, go back to Billy. So we land at the airport in Los Angeles, and we're all at the baggage claim. And Billy meets his family, and he goes out, and there's families all around him and cheering him on. They're all excited. And then Billy brings them over and starts introducing him to all of us who've been with him on the plane. And one by one by one. And he comes over to me and he grabs my arm with both hands. And he's staring at my face for a very uncomfortably long time. And he goes, "You're really funny looking." And I'm like, "Thanks." He goes, "But you were a good best friend." I'm like, oh man, it just melted my heart as I was thinking about it. Folks, there are students all around us every day that need us to be their best friend. It's incumbent upon us to be present and to really think about the infrastructure we have at our disposal, think about how we can redesign education, and think about how we can steal great ideas from other folks and put our mix together. What's our recipe, right? What's our gumbo that's going to blow people away? And how can we do this work that opens pathways to possibilities for our students? Thanks, everybody. Helen and Tom, do you want to do a few questions? Yeah, we have time for 2 or 3 questions if people want to jump up. Go ahead. So what I'll tell you is the market you're in, the students you're serving, is the one part of higher education that's growing. So where you should be feeling really good is the people who are in desperate trouble right now are the people whose business model, whose operational model is based on high schooling their way out of a problem, right? Because the demographic cliff is here, and it's not going to be getting better for a while. What is the continuous need for learning. So the idea of serving the rising, you're going to have more rising high schoolers that are, some rising high schoolers that are coming, but you're going to have more and more students who are coming back and who want to upgrade their skills. So the combination of that upper division and especially community college partnership, because transfers become golden out there for community colleges. And I just got back from a U.S. Department of Education transfer summit with Undersecretary James Kowal. They are investing tons of money to get transfer better. So that upper division piece is a growing market, but then the master's piece is also kind of growing. So the good news is you are serving a part of the higher education space that is healthy and is actually growing. If you look at Southern New Hampshire, if you look at Western Governors, if you look at national, we've grown 20% in the last 6 months. Right, just because that is the part of the organization, part of the higher education space is growing. If you're a hyper traditional liberal arts right now, you're in trouble, right? And I know it because we're an independent university, and I'll go to our meetings, and it's pretty painful to watch people who are hanging on by tooth and nail. At Bennett College, which is a non-traditional, it's an HBCU, that had to realize they had to shift. And what they did during the pandemic is they moved to mini-mesters, and they moved to basically 8-week courses, and they moved to leveraging digital hybriding, and suddenly their enrollment has jumped and their retention has gone up to almost 90%. Because they realized they could do things differently as they kind of redesign themselves. So, I mean, it's a great question to ask, but I would tell you, my gut is you're in a good space. Like, I would rather be in your space than be in a space some of the other folks are having. Yeah. Other questions? Questions, reflections, or thoughts? And this is where the best and brightest respond early and often. Right? I'd love to get a student take. What do you think? What was your take on it?
It's a good idea. I think you just have to find like what kind of niche or like classes does the online classes or the new normal will be like appropriate, because I think there will still be some classes that in person or like we have to do it in person. And also there's also like classes that online classes would be really convenient. For example, in this university, we have like I said a while ago, like we have students who are working full time already. They have family, and I think online classes are convenient. And with me being doing information system, having online classes or the new learning or using the LMS is very helpful because it gives me the ability to go back to some parts of the lessons that I did not get while learning it in classes, and that's very helpful. So I think they both have good pros and cons. You just have to like find the better way to execute it.
And I love the way she's saying it. This isn't either-orism, right? It actually might be much more messy in the middle. Like one of the most successful programs at Collin Community College is Collin County College, they actually do a weekend college program that is 80% working women who are in that program. And it's face-to-face on Friday night and Saturdays, and the rest of the time is online. And the students are ferocious about their face-to-face time, but they're also ferocious about their online time because it gives them the flexibility to work with their life, right? So it's designed for a purpose, for working women in particular, right? So it's figuring out what's the model that's going to work for you and figuring out how you're going to get there. I'll just close with a final idea. During the pandemic, my kids were already in this process of kind of in a diaspora. I had a daughter out at college, another one who was about to go off to college, and then the pandemic hit. And my daughter was just finished her sophomore year at UT Austin, and she, through the first part of the pandemic, she tried taking the online classes, and God bless UT Austin. I love UT Austin for what they did, but they had a hard time doing online. They were not very good at it. And so Alex was having a hard time with it, and I said, take a gap year. Let's just take a gap year and have you come back, and we'll do some work together. And she came back and was wonderful because she was able to tutor her younger brother and really helped him through his challenges. And what was really neat, and I don't know if any of you had this experience, but all 4 of our kids were together. We were in the mountains of North Carolina. We were hiking. We were eating dinner together. It was a traumatic time, but like our family reconnected like it kind of needed to. It was really kind of amazing. But my daughter and I, what I decided to do with her was to actually write a book with her. So I've written like 8 books and 300 articles. I wanted to demystify that process for her. And so she had just gotten through an early childhood course and and she was a teacher. She was a rising teacher. I said, why don't we write a children's book? I go, and let's base it on something from your past. And so one of the things we decided to base it on, was something called the sugar chair. And the sugar chair was something we took from a dear family friend named Becky Hodges, who was a 40-year kindergarten teacher in Alabama, who didn't use timeout. She used something called the sugar chair. And the sugar chair is this white rocker that had a plaque on the back that had a rhythm that said, slow down, look around, figure out how to sweeten things up. So when a kid got in trouble or they had a challenge, they would go into the sugar chair, and the rhythm was slow down. Second, look around, which is see it through other people's perspective, not just your own, and then figure out how to sweeten things up. And you got out of the sugar chair when you had a plan for sweetening things up. It's a neat little rhythm, right? And so we used that with Alex, and Alex loved it. It was something she grew up with. So we decided, with Becky's permission, to write the story of the sugar chair, and we wrote it through the view of a rising, a little puppy and a little girl who grew up together. And the kind of moral of the story basically is when you're young, you have to go in the sugar chair, but as you get older, for the love of God, I have to find a sugar chair. Like as you get older, you actually want to find those spots, that spot on the deck, that spot in the woods, whatever it is, where you can calm the world down, slow things down, think about it, and then create a plan for sweetening things up. You know what I'm talking about? So long story short, we actually wrote the book, set it out for reviews, got through the entire process, found a publisher, found an illustrator, and now it's available. I'm not trying to sell the book to you right now, but I'm telling you, it was a fun thing to do with Alexandra. It was a fun thing to be, in fact, Richard, I think you were one of the reviewers on it, right? Which is really neat. But we had, it was great. We got featured on one of the kind of Gates Foundation podcasts. We were like, oh, it was really fun just doing this with my daughter. It was just so cool, going to be a project. But I'm going to tell you my own perspective right now in the world of education is we need some sugar chair time. And why I say that is because I think we have an opportunity right now, while everyone's saying go back to normal, go back to normal, go back to normal. Like, no. We have a time right now to vision a new possible. And if we can take a deep breath and see the world through other people's eyes, especially those working students, right? And there's other kinds of students, we can design something that's going to be radically impactful, that can help more and more diverse students be more successful than ever before. Thanks, everybody.
So again, join me in thanking Dr. Mark Miller. All right, that concludes our program for this morning. So we are going to let you out almost 10 minutes early. All right? All right. Have a great semester.